really does describe what was going on in court this morning. There were motions before the jury was brought in to address a taped phone call that the prosecution wanted to examine today. And they put a witness on the stand. I believe his name is Robert, I've lost his name for a second. I'll pull it up in my notes here because I want to make sure you know who we're talking about here. Robert Shalakas. He was a BLM law enforcement investigative agent, and he, along with Agent Mike Johnson, called Ryan Bundy on March 17th of 2014 to, in his words, ascertain what the Bundys' intentions were regarding the upcoming or the impending cattle impoundment. Now, they taped this phone call, and so it's very obvious as you listen to that phone call, and they only used excerpts of it. There was just select excerpts of, they had roughly 45 minutes worth of the call taped. It actually started before the tape was running, and there was 45 minutes total. They used maybe 13 minutes of clips in the courtroom, but it's very clear that what they were trying to do was show that Ryan Bundy was spoiling for a fight, or otherwise just was not willing to be reasonable with the government. And this is where it got interesting, because when the prosecution made its case, well, look, here we have this agent testifying, and playing these clips. Yes, that was Ryan Bundy. Yes, that was him saying, we're going to do whatever it takes to protect our cattle. There was a point in there where he was asked, what can we do? And this was by Agent Johnson. What can we do to avoid any kind of physical harm or physical situation or risk? And Ryan very clearly answered him. You can start adhering to the Constitution. You can start recognizing that we have rights that are being abridged and that are being attacked here, and you can just not show up. Now, when the prosecution, did their questioning, it was all about, well, he told us we should just not show up, giving the impression that's all he said. And then Ryan had a chance to cross-examine this agent, and he made him point out that, no, that wasn't all that I said. It wasn't just a matter of, don't show up. It was a matter of there are rights that are at stake here. You're not adhering to the Constitution. All of that took place in front of the jury. So that was a positive thing. The agent who was on the stand, obviously very practiced. He was very careful not to refer to the land as range, or even to refer to it as, the ranch. He made sure he talked about it only in terms of its BLM, administered lands. This is, of course, to bolster the prosecution's case. And there's more cross-examination that was going on after that, pertaining to whether or not they had recorded another phone call with another member of the Bundy family. And in fact, the suggestion was made that maybe the government had approached this member of the Bundy family and had offered some incentive, either clemency or maybe even monetary compensation, for providing them with information. And one of the attorneys suggested, I believe it was Brett Whipple, suggested that sounds like a bribe, and the judge was not happy about that, and she shut that down right away. In fact, we had a little meeting after the jury was dismissed and before everybody went to lunch, where she talked about how to handle that. Water rights have been an issue here, and again, just to understand, the Bundys, and Ryan makes this very clear in this taped phone call, the Bundys are not claiming to own land. They are not claiming to have title to the land, but they are claiming to have access to pre-existing water rights and forage rights, and the access that goes along with that. And this is a part that I fear a lot of people don't understand when they say, well, they need to pay their rent. And as Ryan so clearly explained in his opening statement, you don't pay rent for things that you own. And they owned those rights. If you think of them as an easement, that guarantees they would have access to these regardless of who holds title to the land. We're going to head back into the courtroom here in just a few minutes, and I'll be doing another update in just a few hours to let you know what's going on. One thing I would ask you to consider is if you're tempted, or people who are tempted to just kind of play this off as, well, this is just ranchers versus the feds. It's been going on. The Sagebrush Rebellion, we all heard about it growing up. It's not that abstract, and it's not something that's so detached from you that it would never affect you. What we're seeing play out in this courtroom, and the names and the issues that are involved, are symptoms of a much larger problem, which is our federal government is exceeding its bounds and is no longer acting as a servant that guarantees and protects our God-given rights, but it's acting as a master that knows no limits to its power. That's a big deal. And if it's not affecting you at the moment, it will at some point. So kudos to the people who recognize this and are willing to stand with the Bundys and to encourage them in their stand and being willing to take the hits for a battle for freedom that very few people understand and fewer still are ready to stand up and join. That's our update for now. We'll be back to tell you more in just a few hours.